In this video, we will learn about the definitions and some of the properties of angle pairs. And especially we're going to look at angle pairs that are created when you have parallel lines that are cut across by a transversal. But first, let's go through the basic vocabulary. Here we're looking at a picture of two parallel lines that are being cut by a transversal. So the line that's going across the parallel lines, that's called the transversal. So there's a lot of vocabulary that's created when this happens. So the first one is something called corresponding angles. So if you look at each one of these intersections as sort of a group of four, so just temporarily look at this group of four angles. Can you see how this angle right here is in the upper right hand corner? Okay. Now look at this group of four down here. Can you see how this, where I just put a Y, that would also be in the upper right hand corner? Because they are both in the upper right hand corner, these are called corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are equal. So, in this case, X would equal Y. So I could have put those angles anywhere. If I put my X in the upper left-hand corner of the top group, then I could put a Y in the upper left-hand corner, and these would be corresponding angles. Let's look at one more. Okay, say if I put my X right here in the lower left-hand corner, then Y right here, these would now be corresponding angles. Now, how about alternate interior angles? When we talk about the word interior, I know that you know that that means on the inside of something. So I'm talking about being between the parallel lines. That's what it means when we say interior. We mean between the lines. The word alternate means on opposite sides of the transversal. So, for example, say if I pick my X to be this right here. Do you see how it's between the lines? It is an interior angle. So if I come down to my other group and I want to pick another interior angle, but instead of picking the same side of the transversal, I'll pick the opposite side for my Y. That will make these alternate interior angles between the lines but opposite sides. These are alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles are equal. So X is equal to Y. Let me remind you of three other vocabulary words that I hope you already know. If you have a 90-degree angle, of course that is a right angle. If you have an angle that is less than 90 degrees, that is an acute angle. And if you have an angle that is greater than 90 degrees, that is an obtuse angle. Now, why am I mentioning that now? Here's a pattern that you might as well get comfortable with. When you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, if you see two angles that are acute, they're probably equal. So you see how these corresponding angles, they're both acute. They're both less than 90 degrees. They're probably going to be equal. Now look at these two angles here, the X and a Y. See how they're both acute? They're probably going to be equal. So if you forget some of these rules where I'm saying corresponding angles are equal, if you forget that, you can think, if you have to guess, ask yourself, wait a minute, are they both acute? They're probably equal. And the same thing goes for obtuse. When we were doing corresponding angles a moment ago, sometimes I would put it, for example, here. All right, if I put my X in the lower right-hand corner and I put a Y in the lower right-hand corner, these are corresponding angles. See how both of these angles are obtuse? If you have two obtuse angles in this situation, they're probably going to be equal. If you have to guess, that will help you guess right. Anyway, so let's do some more vocabulary. Alternate exterior. Well, if this is the interior, okay, here inside between the lines, then exterior must be out here. Alright, outside the line. So we have the interior is between and the exterior is not between. So when we say exterior angles, we're talking about angles that are above and below. I didn't mean to erase my parallel line ism. Okay, so exterior angles. So for example, if I put my x here, that's an exterior angle. Now if I come down here, I need to pick another exterior angle, but it says alternate. That means opposite sides of the line. So I'm going to put my y over here. So these would be alternate exterior angles. Exterior angles, alright, not between the lines, and alternate, they're on opposite sides of the line. Okay, of course I could have done it the other way. Say if I put my x here, okay, that's still exterior. I would have to put my y here on the opposite side of the line. These are alternate exterior angles. And guess what? These are still equal. Alright, and you could probably guess that because they're both obtuse. And like I said, if they're both obtuse, they're probably equal. If they're both acute, they're probably equal. That's just when you have parallel lines in a transversal, not just in general. Okay, what about consecutive interior angles? Now, interior angles, all right, we're back to being between the lines again. All right, we're talking about interior. So what if I pick my x to be right here? That's interior. It's between the lines. Okay. Now, if I put my y on the other side of the line, that would be alternate interior. So consecutive must mean that they will be on the same side of the line, like this. Now, notice that angle y is acute, and angle x is obtuse. So they're not going to be equal. When you have an acute angle and an obtuse angle, a parallel lines cut by a transversal situation, they are probably supplementary. So x plus y has to add up to 180, also known as supplementary. Okay, so if you have to guess, all the acute angles that you see are probably equal. All of the obtuse angles you see are probably equal. But if you have an acute angle and an obtuse angle together, paired up, they are probably supplementary. Okay, so I picked these. So what about over here? Say if I put my x here, that's still interior. If I put my y here on the same side, then these are consecutive interior angles. See how they're right next to each other. Alright, and they would still be supplementary. Okay, now what's a linear pair? Now a linear pair doesn't really have anything to do with parallel lines being cut by a transversal. Okay, all you need is a pair of intersecting lines to have a linear pair. So a linear pair is two angles that make up a straight line. So say if I have my x here and my y here. Do you see how together they make a straight line? That's why they call them a linear pair. And you know, because x plus y, that's 180 degrees. So and that's the rule. I guess I just said it. X plus y will equal 180 degrees. And once again, that means they are supplementary. Okay? Notice that we did not need parallel lines cut by a transversal. Alright? All you need is one line that's being intersected by another line. And then all of a sudden you're going to have a linear pair. So for example, if I put x here and y here, this is a linear pair because together they make this straight line. Okay? Yeah. So linear pair. Here's another example of a linear pair. Alright, there's a bunch of them. If you do have parallel lines cut by a transversal, you have a bunch of examples of a linear pair. Say if this is x and this is y. Do you see how together they make this straight line right here? Okay, together they make 180 degrees right here. So that makes this a linear pair. Okay, they're all over the place here. There's another pair down here, x and y. This would be a linear pair because they make this straight line. Okay, that's a linear pair. Can you see any other linear pairs? Okay, we have x and y right here. That's a linear pair. Alright, they make this straight line. Okay, they're all over the place. Okay, one more. Did I do this one already? X and y. I think I already did that one. Anyway, there's tons of linear pairs. I guess I'll just leave that one as an example. Now, finally, we have vertical angles. Now, here again, vertical angles do not require parallel lines. Alright, vertical angles, that's another thing that you get anytime you have lines that intersect. And vertical angles are these angles that are sort of opposite from each other. Okay, when you have intersecting lines, you automatically get two pairs of vertical angles. These angles are vertical angles, like x and y. Those are vertical angles. Okay, but also, let's see, can I erase these without erasing everything? These over here, alright, if I put my x and y right here, these are also vertical angles. Now, vertical angles are going to be equal again, which again you could guess because see how these are both obtuse? Okay, or if I put angles right here like A and B, alright, A and B are vertical angles. See how they're both acute? If you have to guess, you would guess that they were equal. Okay, now back to the picture though. So my vertical angles, they're everywhere. There's four pairs up here. Well, there's two pairs up here and two pairs down here. So for example, x and y are vertical angles right here. Okay, or I could have put them x and y. These are vertical angles right here. Now, so vertical angles are equal. So x will equal y. Alright, more examples. Okay, these are vertical angles right here. Okay, and one more pair. These are vertical angles like right here. Alright, that was a very long introduction. Now, circle the term that best describes the pair of angles marked x and y. So x and y, these are just like these angles. Okay, they're right across from each other. They are vertical angles. Alright, so this is a pair of vertical angles. What about these? Well, this x and y, see how they're both outside of the lines, outside of the parallel lines? That makes them exterior something. Alright, so they will either be, I guess we didn't talk about consecutive exterior angles. So these are definitely going to be alternate exterior angles. Alright, they're outside of the parallel lines and they're on opposite sides. That's what makes them alternate. Okay, what about number 3? Alright, see how these are all, they're both between the lines? Okay, this is the interior of the parallel lines. So these are both in the interior. Okay, so are they alternate interior or are they consecutive interior? Those are the choices. Because they're on opposite sides of the line, that makes them alternate interior angles. If they were on the same side of the line, they would be consecutive. Oh, look what's happening on number 4. We were just speaking about this. Again, this is the interior, alright, of the parallel lines because it's between the parallel lines. So X and Y are in the interior. But because they're on the same side, that makes them consecutive interior angles. Okay, what about number 5? This is back to vertical angles again. This is another pair of vertical angles. Okay, when you have intersecting lines and they're just right across from each other, like sort of like an hourglass. I just put lines all over the place. I messed that up. Okay, I said when you have this hourglass thing happening, like boom, boom, and then you've got this and this, all right, like an hourglass, that's when you have vertical angles happening. Okay, what about number 6? Okay, see how they are just forming a straight line together? Okay, what did we call it when you had two angles that together make a straight line? That's called a linear pair. Okay, that's like these, X and Y just sitting right next to each other, making a straight line. That's a linear pair. Okay, what about number 7? These are going to be corresponding angles. All right, that's when, if you look at this group, and then if you look at this group, and you see how the Y is in the lower right hand corner, and the X is also in the lower right hand corner. That's when you have corresponding angles. Okay, that's what we were talking about right here, like boom and boom. Lower right, that's corresponding angles. All right, and then number 8. Okay, remember how the interior is in here. This was the interior. That means the X and Y are exterior. They're both outside of the lines. So this is going to be something exterior. So what do we have that involve the word exterior? This is the only one, alternate exterior angles. All right, the alternate means they're on opposite sides of the line. Okay, find the measure of the question mark. Now, in all of these cases, we have parallel lines cut by a transversal. Okay, remember the hint that I gave you. If they are both acute angles, okay, meaning less than 90 degrees, then they're probably equal. If you have a pair of obtuse angles, they're also probably equal. But if you have one acute angle and one obtuse angle, they are probably supplementary. Okay, so see the 85 and the question mark? See how they are both acute angles? That means they're going to be equal. Okay, so this is going to be 85 degrees. All right, by the way, these are corresponding angles. Okay, look at number 10. See how we have an acute angle and an obtuse angle. They are probably going to be supplementary. Okay, and in fact, this is what we called a linear pair. And a linear pair is definitely going to be supplementary. So we will just do 180 minus 83. So that should be 97. Okay, so you see the shortcut though? If they're both the same, like acute and acute, or obtuse and obtuse, they will probably be the same. If you have one acute angle and one obtuse angle, go supplementary. Okay, well here you have a 90-degree angle. That's going to really mean that all of these angles have to be 90 degrees, including this one. So this is going to be a 90-degree angle. By the way, these are alternate exterior angles. Are we supposed to name these? Find the measure of the angle. Nope, I guess we're just doing numbers. Okay. Now, So here, see the 100 and then the question mark. See how 100, that's obtuse, and then the question mark is an acute angle. It's acute. So these are not the same. So they are probably going to be supplementary. So if this is 100, this is going to be 80. So that would have been a good guess. Now, if you notice that these are consecutive interior angles, then you know for sure consecutive interior angles are in fact supplementary. Okay, so they got to add to 180. These are vertical angles, and we know that vertical angles are equal. All right, so if this one's 66, this is going to be 66. But again, if you had a guess, this is acute, this is also acute, they're probably the same. Number 14. Now, yes, this is what you called a linear pair. See how both of these together are forming the straight line. That means that they are supplementary. So we can just do 180 minus the 63, right? That's 117. So this question mark is 117 degrees. But here again, we had an acute angle and an obtuse angle. If you weren't sure, you should guess supplementary. Okay, find the measure of the indicated angle that would make U parallel to V. So that's really no different. They're just wording it differently. So in the previous problems, they told us the lines were parallel, and they said, what's the angle? Now they're saying what angle would make the lines parallel. Either way, the only way the lines are going to be parallel is if the same rules apply that we've been doing this whole time. So in other words, the question mark and the 65, these are alternate interior angles. If these are equal, that will only happen if the lines are parallel. So in other words, this will have to be 65, just like we were doing above. Acute, acute, they'd have to be the same. Now, right here, obtuse, obtuse, they should be the same. All right, these are corresponding angles. They would have to be the same to make the lines parallel. Obtuse, obtuse, they're the same, so they must be the same, 126. Or at least that's the way it would have to be to make the lines parallel. By the way, these are corresponding angles, lower right, lower right. These are also corresponding angles, lower left, lower left. So of course they would have to be equal. Okay, these are consecutive interior angles. They need to be supplementary. Now if you look real closely, this one is acute and this one's obtuse. They need to add up to 180. So if we do 180 minus 88, that's going to be 92. Okay, so whenever you see angles that sort of sit inside of a bucket like this, all right, they're sort of together inside of a cave or a bucket, they are almost always supplementary. All right, so if you can sort of draw a little box around them like that, they're probably going to be supplementary. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.